Okay.
Okay, good morning. Um, Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. You're all familiar faces, but hello. I'm Monica Buckley and I'm your lay leader for today. Whether it's your first time or your 1000th Sunday with us, we are so happy that you are here. So no matter who you love, how you identify, your political affiliation, your size, your gender, your race, you are welcome here at UFP and we're so glad you've come. Are there any announcements?
Just a quick one. I'm Miranda, and this is sort of informal. I was sent something from the UUA reminding us that we have two positions, two votes at the General Assembly. If you'd like to go to the General Assembly, think about it. It's a lot of fun. People, Unitarians from all over the country getting together. It's a great weekend with wonderful workshops and speakers. Can't remember the name of the lecturer this year. Sorry. Well, it's a wonderful thing. So if you feel like going, we have two spots that are. It's actually votes because they make decisions. But just a reminder that it's going on. It's a cool thing to do. It's in June. I mean, it's soon.
It's in July, I think.
Is it?
Oh,
it's
now.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry. Then the thing to remember is that where election is over with. It's Friday night, and you could probably have gotten online, but there might be things online this weekend. It's a blast. Sorry about that.
I actually have a friend that they do it at the University of California, Pennsylvania, and my friend works there, and he says, out of all the groups that like rent their space out, the UUs are the best. So I was like, yeah, that's me. Any other announcements?
On behalf of the caring committee, Kay's not here this morning. Our long-term UUFP friend Dorothea Hamlin died last week. She was 101. She joined the fellowship in 1992, and I remember her well from all of her contributions to the garden and to our kitchen as well. But if anybody would like to sign a card, we do have a card for her family that we'll pass around during the social hour. So thank you.
I spoke to Dorothea's daughter. They would like to hold a memorial service here. She needed to speak to her brother, and they would probably like to do it after a Sunday service. So for those of us who know her, we would just hang out after the Sunday service, but I'll let you know whatever date they choose.
Anything else? All right. We're gonna light our chalice. Our chalice lighter. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Thank you, Chloe. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to keep the kids in service with us today because we have a lot of people that are going to come up and share. And afterwards, we're going to have an art gala where you can get snacks in the social hall. And then we encourage you to go around and look at all the tables and the different art pieces. We're also going to have a couple of members who are presenting during the gala part too. Like Brandon's going to present, Chad's going to present. So we just want to stay around. So there's more fun. So we're going to do a story for all ages, and it's called The Dot by Peter Reynolds. Lori's going to do that for us.
Hi guys, I'm Lori, and could you tell me your names? Finn, Lily. I'm Lori. This story is called The Dot, and it's by Peter Reynolds. See this?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have pictures.
That's okay. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw. Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good strong jab. There! Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, now sign it. Vashti thought for a moment. Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name. The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. I can make a better dot than that. She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, purple dot, yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow, she discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors. If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. Small art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw, he said. I bet you can, said Vashti. Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. Show me. The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, please, sign it.
Thank you. All right. So we're gonna do the offer story now. Oh, thank you. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Thank you for giving today in whatever way you can. We really appreciate you helping us keep the lights on. All right. So I am a creative person. When I was a little girl, I would write long, complex stories, and I would follow up with great, beautiful works of art that went along with my stories. I would make up plays with my friends, and I would put on big performances in our yard for all of our neighbors. To my parents' chagrin, I would sing constantly at the top of my lungs for all the world to hear. My imagination created complex fantasy worlds full of magical creatures and warrior princesses. It created scandalous soap operas with my Barbies and her many, many boyfriends. Like all humans, I used my creativity to explore complex topics and issues that I faced and to express myself. And I did it unabashed and uninhibited. As a kid, you get to do those things. You get to be creative and carefree to the max. As I've grown older and taken on more responsibilities, my creative outlets have evolved and sadly diminished. I had a stretch of a few years where I felt that I had to monetize everything that I did in my free time. As an elder millennial, we are a hustle generation because we have to work so hard to get so little compared to what our parents were able to do. So if I couldn't make money off of the activity, it just wasn't worth my time. This feeling really stagnated my creativity, and it made me stop doing all of the things that I love to do. And worse, it made me second guess myself, and it depleted my confidence, and it just sucked the joy out of life. And I was super, super burnt out. And that's when I met Anna Swanson. Anna, sorry. Wow, I didn't think I was gonna get emotional. Anyway, Anna started coming to UUFP last fall, and she started up the choir again and asked me to join. Wow. I was really, really nervous about singing again because I hadn't sung in such a long time. And I was never really good at reading music. But I gave it a shot. And Anna creates a really safe place for us to sing, and I get to connect and learn from my fellow choir members, especially my altos, Lori and Miranda, who help me with the notes. And we sing because we love music and we love our UF community. And little by little, I try to make more room in my life for unhindered creative endeavors. And slowly I'm finding my creative spark again. So my intention for this service is to give space for people in our fellowship to share their creative endeavors and to inspire all of you to embrace what you love to do and to do it more every day. So I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote for my grandmother. When I was 10, my grandfather had passed away, and I was in like 4th grade, and I wrote a poem for him at his funeral. And my grandma and I were very, very close. And my whole life, she's like, you are going to write a poem for me for my funeral when I die. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And she wanted me to write it for her before she died so she could hear it. And I was like, no. So I just thought I would like doom her then. So she never got to hear this. I think she obviously heard it. So I wrote this. She died in 2021. She was 83. So she lived a really good long life. And I wrote this poem and I read it at her funeral. So hopefully I don't cry during this one. All right, so this is called The Bone Crusher. My Granny's hands were wrinkled and cold with knotty veins under translucent, sun-spotted skin. As I held her hand for the last time, I wondered what these hands did over their 83-year life. They pushed through the calm water of the pool and the rough waves of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. They shifted through the sands at the Jersey Shore and held the end of her grandfather's kite as he flew hundreds of kites off the coast. They caressed the petals of her grandmother's African violets blooming on the porch. They saluted the American flag and buttoned her naval uniform. Her fingers intertwined with a handsome farm boy from Western PA as they vowed to marry and love each other. They clenched a bed sheet in pain as she delivered her only daughter in the world, unassisted at the Buckley family homestead. They raised 6 children, hugged 14 grandchildren, and snuggled great-grandchildren and great-grand-doggies. They checked for fevers on the heads of patients and children. They mended, they healed, they comforted. They made the best grilled cheese sandwiches and brewed the best iced tea. They raised in fists of triumphs when the Rams, her favorite football team, scored a touchdown. They cupped her mouth as she cheered when the goal was made, the shot was scored, and the bases were run. They clapped for an encore at the choir as the choir finished its recital and as the curtain fell for the play. They tut-tutted grandchildren's hands as they snuck cookies from the porcelain cookie jar on the kitchen counter. They dug in the dirt and grew the most beautiful tulips, daffodils, and pansies in her garden. They gripped the wheel of her little white VW convertible as she ran to meet her Red Society friends. They taught me to knit and crochet. They made the most beautiful Afghans, hats, scarves, and mittens to warm and comfort her loved ones and friends. My Grammy's hands were wrinkled and cold with knotty veins under translucent sun-spotted skin. And over the years, her hands have done many things, but I will always remember them as bone crushers. Thank you. So next up we have Erica Dusty.
Monica, thank you for giving us this space for creativity. My name is Erica Dusky. I come from a family of artists, and my 3 kids are all artists. After years of being a stay-at-home mom and a little freelancing, and also a lot of trying to fit in creative time for myself in between raising the kids, I now work as a creative director at a trading card company, designing trading card sets, packaging, website product packages, email campaigns, magazine ads, trade show displays. I love that my job has so much variety. In my spare time, I enjoy a variety of art mediums, although I have less time for that now. But scrapbooking, sewing, paper crafting, drawing, painting murals and sets, the list goes on. The project in the gallery today came about because when we did a mini facelift for a bathroom a few years back, meaning like just painting and rather than replacing toilets and stuff, just the surface. I made it into a sun bathroom. I wanted something cheery to look at in the morning. It has yellow walls and all the decorations are sun themed. Behind the faucet is a hand-painted mural with a smiling sun face that mimics the light fixture above. And the okay, so that's on the screen, good. All the wall deco is collected from yard sales and thrift shops. Well, a couple of years ago, one of my sons fell off the wall, took a nosedive and broke. I thought about trying to find another one to put in its spot, but then an idea started forming in my head. And I've always been the kind of artist who likes to make applied art versus fine art. I like art that serves a purpose. And that's where the ideas germinate for me. When the ideas pop into my head, I don't always know where they come from, but it's fun to follow the ideas. And so that, yeah, the sun is in the sort of in the middle there, and it's back there. And I'm going to go a little off script here because I was inspired by the book this morning. That one of my favorite stories, favorite songs when I grew up was a Harry Chapin song, and we used to listen to Harry Chapin when we traveled. My family and I did a lot of camping when I was young, and we went all different places, and we would sit in the car for long stretches of time going wherever we were going. And one of our favorite musicians to listen to was Harry Chapin, and he has a song, and I don't remember what the title is, but basically it's about a little kid who comes into a class and comes in art class, and he's drawing this beautiful picture with all different colors. And the teacher comes along and says, flowers are red, green leaves are green. That's the only way that it should be. So the little kid is all, is kind of upset, but he still tries to color with all the colors. And the teacher's like, no, corrects him again. Flowers are red, green leaves are green. And then goes into this, it goes into a sad part of it where his creativity is stifled. And then basically the song turns around and comes back to, it should be the way that kids learn that they can paint whatever they want to paint, whatever way they want to paint. And I've always loved that song. It's been an inspiration for me. Thank you.
Next up, we have Anna Swanson.
Monica, thank you so much for giving us this space. And I'm so glad that I could be an inspiration to you, which is my intention for this as well. The creative process for me has consistently been intuitive in my nature. And as I have deepened my spiritual landscape, creativity has become ever more expansive. I speak today about the creative process with a few motifs and motives. I've created so many different pieces in a plethora of media, I could not prioritize just a particular piece to present on. How do you pick just one beautiful flower? And because I desire to inspire you to explore your own creative power, despite any former thoughts, beliefs, or ideas that may have formed self-doubt, that ominous nimbostratus. I began my creative pursuits through performing music, and then through the art of composition. Both of these outlets connect me to the unseen muse, creative spirit, whose expressions form outside of words. Some emotions, wrenching aches, heart-opening blossoms, zapping anxiety, unearthed grief, bone-resonating peace, bubbles of joyous reverberations, encapsulations of despair, and honeyed hope cannot be expressed verbally. And music was a way for me to intone what I needed to articulate without saying anything. I was actively involved in theater in high school, experimenting with costume design and trying my hand as an actor. Through this medium, I could become anyone. But poetry was where I was genuinely me. This art form has been with me since I was 13, and despite my poems mostly being unseen, they are filled with nature scenes, metaphorically expressing my soul's experiences. It turns out that when I discovered enough of my emotions through music and theater, I could explore more wit of the written world. But watercolors have become my latest obsession, and despite, or perhaps because of their unruly interactions, they are highly evocative and surprisingly pleasing. But how can art become something more? As if it needed to. Morphing one artistic project into another has become a fun endeavor. So now my watercolor art resides close to my heart. I've transformed it into clothing, decor, and fabric, literally covering my bosom, and allegorically, home is where the heart is. Now that you have witnessed my expertise, please attend this teaching, the creative process in 3 steps. 1, start with an idea. Do not worry about how, or when, or why, or what to do, just an idea. But where do you find one? The best inspirations come when you are engrossed in something you love, while wandering the forest or observing the ocean, when visiting a museum or a darkened auditorium, in the midst of enjoying a cup of coffee or betwixt the clouds of daydreaming. This is the lightning, not the thunder, quiet yet insightful, brilliant, striking, unexpected. Allow your mind time and space for an idea to enlighten. You must capture it to measure the effect it has. It may happen at an inopportune moment. So it's a good idea to carry a notebook in your pocket. 2, delve into the indulgence of invention. This is the part in which you let your mind dive in without putting up any confines. Allow the words to spill onto the page, surge with the tides of harmony, plunge into a painting or intuit a divinely inspired metaphor. You're in the depths now. Swim with oxymoron. This is not time to edit nor review, not the time to launch into how to make it sellable, not the time to guess whether it will be liked or not, certainly not the time to give up. No, This is the time for free form flow. Submerge into the monsoon, immerse into the geyser. This is the time to vent, to extract, to expel, to utterly express yourself. This is the time to let the creative juices really gush. Finally, the editing process. In this section, go back to your creation, tweak it as you see fit, and simplify. This mindset, used to edit, is different. When you start to edit, you can carefully, with attention, polish and reform. Without this phase, your art will be merely messy. If you enjoy continuity, through this phase, your creativity becomes heightened. That is, you will peer not only at the details, the tiny pebbles that bring forth deeper delights, but also zoom out into a broad vision. Observe from the top of the mountain, which will help you create form and resolution. Once you're done with your project, it's wise to move on to the next, despite any misgivings about the end product. Or if you get stuck in the final phase over and over again, the likelihood of you resenting your own creation will elaborate. But instead, if you bask in the glow of completion, knowing that you can always create more and become even better, that your creative time on earth is an adventure and yet simply a snippet, you will behold your work aligned with the eyes of your divine spirit.
Next up is Valerie Murdoch.
Ooh, I'm really short.
So, as many of you know, I come here and knit every Sunday. I'm sure you see me sitting here knitting. I have a hard time sitting still without something in my hands to do. I knit while I watch TV, I knit while I talk to my friends and family. It's just, I'm almost never without it. It helps me focus, and I find it soothing and meditative. Unlike Anna's much more organic process, I find knitting mathematical. And I find comfort in that. I love the math. I love watching something grow geometrically and just from chart to something squishy in my hands. It's an amazing feeling. When I first moved here from Oregon about 4 years ago, we had to stay with my parents for about 6 or 7 weeks while we found a house and then settled on a house and did all the paperwork. And most of our stuff, like 90% of our stuff, was packed away in a pod. And my knitting stuff was in pod. I had not brought anything with me to knit over that summer, and that was I thought I would survive it, and by about 3 weeks in, I broke down and I went to a craft store and just panic bought like needles. I think it was a scarf. It didn't even matter what it was. I just needed to have it in my hands. But what I want to share, what I want to share with you today also is I'm going to be reading a blog post that I wrote almost exactly 12 years ago today about why I knit. This was before I had kids to knit for, so even a lot has changed since then. Most of this is not my own writing. I wrote this blog post to share a letter from the editor of a knitting magazine. I brought this just as an example. It's not from this specific magazine, but I don't have that issue. But Interweave is a huge publishing house that makes knitting and crochet magazines. Some of I think people nodding their heads, some of you may know that. Once a year, Interweave Knits comes out with Interweave Knits Weekend, a special edition of their magazine that has more practical projects, everyday things, not the like high fashion stuff. So Monday, June 27th, 2011, why I knit. I had hoped someday to write elegantly on this subject, and perhaps I still will in the future. But for now, I wanted to share with you all a letter from Uni Jung, knitter extraordinaire and interweave editor. This note accompanied the announcement of the release of Interweave Knits Weekend 2011 issue. And while it does, of course, plug the new issue, it also sums up beautifully how I feel about knitting and why I do it. Her letter was called Living a Handmade Life. Ever since we started producing Weekend in 2008, I've delighted in collecting cozy, casual knits that represent the kinds of things we really wear. There's a comfortable, satisfied feeling that comes of making something that is at once beautiful and eminently functional. These aren't dressy or finicky pieces, but garments and accessories that feel homey and relaxed, familiar. Every piece in this issue is informed by the everyday life of its designer, her own wishes and needs for useful, purposeful knits that look and feel good. It's fun to catch a glimpse of their lives through their sweaters. And I do think a lot about this handmade life we lead as knitters, people who make useful things out of sticks and string. It's an extraordinary thing in a larger culture that praises speed and disposability. Our craft is methodical, meditative, thoughtful. Its gratification is delayed. But we do it for the joy of making wonderful things with our own hands, adding usefulness and beauty to the world with every stitch. Of course, there are as many shades to the knitting urge as there are knitters, but I think that most of them boil down to this. We love being creators. Our knitting studs our lives with creativity. Because of it, we're good problem solvers and thoughtful analysts. We know how to judge and take risks. We are at peace with the fact that you sometimes just need to start over again. We knitters are forces that add. So keep on knitting, and not just on swanky projects. Knit slouchy Saturday market sweaters, snowballing mittens, toys even for children who haven't quite outgrown bibs yet. Knit things you'll use every day. Wrap your loved ones in woolly armor and fill your home with beautiful things. And enjoy them all. Let them wear out. Remake them into something else. Make your knitting part of your real everyday life. Get your issue of Weekend 2011 now and fill the world with more good knitting that knows what to do with. The knitter's life, creating, laboring, letting go. It's all fun and right. Cheers, and John. So I thought there was something I wanted to share that was really much too big to put on my table. It is something that I thought it was appropriate to share because this is what I have been knitting in church every Sunday, almost every single Sunday since about January. And I finished it fairly recently. Do you want to help me hold it up, Chloe? And this is getting used every day in my home. And it lives on the couch and the kids never heard about it. There we go.
Could you hold that up again?
Oh, sure.
It was on, I realized just now it was off camera.
More over here. Okay. Oh, but I might need to stand up on it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
taller than me. Right. Well, now you can sit down behind the table.
Oh, that's great.
Well, you would like to, well, I can't quite spread it out, but this is what I'm actually knitting a pride flag right now for my door. It's, I can't stretch it out right because I stopped in the middle of the road. It's a pride flag, but it's the progress pride flag and the triangle cross separately. So it's not cool. Oh, yes. Yeah, this also is one of my dance. This is, I love geometrics, and this one is a center out geometric, and I love watching it grow like a fractal.
Thank you, Valerie. Next up is super.
thank you so much for doing this, Monica. This has been something a long time coming that I wanted to express somehow some things about my life that I wasn't allowed to talk about for one reason or another, or I didn't want to look at. And over the past couple of years, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that's helped me, and one of the ones that is very important to me is We Can Do Hard Things. And if you're not familiar with it, it's awesome. You should check it out. But there's a song in that ends every show, and there's over 200 episodes that I've listened to and counting. So at the end of every show, this song plays. So I'm just going to sing it without any music or anything, and walk my timeline that has all the things that I'm finally looking at. Okay. I walked through fire, I came out the other side. I chased desire, I made sure I got what is mine. And I continue to believe that I'm the one for me. And because I'm mine, I walk the line. Because we're adventurers, rates are not a final destination we lack. We stopped asking directions to places they've never been. And to be loved, we need to be known. We'll finally find our way back home. And through the joy and pain that our lives bring, we can do hard things. I hit rock bottom, it felt like a brand new start. I'm not the problem, sometimes things fall apart. And I continue to believe the best people are free. And it took some time, but I'm finally fine. 'Cause we're adventurers and heartbreaks are not a final destination we lack. We stopped asking directions to places they'll never go. And to be loved, we need to be known. We'll finally find our way back home. And through the joy and pain that our lives bring, we can do hard things. Yeah, we can do hard things. Yeah, we can do hard things. From within came a purposefulness, a deep knowing. She was still that wild little girl that danced in the rain. Even though the world had done its best to beat the joy and freedom out of her. She was sick of being a victim at the mercy of fate. And now she understood that she didn't have to be, not anymore. It was time to wake up and take control of her life. She was reclaiming a part of herself that had been taken away. And with that, all the walls and blockages of insecurity inside her came tumbling down. Susanna connected with her own powerful confidence, her true self.
Okay, try it again. Next up, we have Cassia Dusky.
I also have RJ in here. The digital piece. There was a little confusion about whether RJ or Kathy was speaking, but the only way RJ to participate was to say you don't have to come. You know, college kids can't get out of bed before noon, so.
Now that I'm up here, it's intimidating to step up on. Yeah, RJ, I think would apologize for not being able to be here. He's got a big project he's working on. So I'm gonna start sharing the first one here. Thank you. Okay. So I'm Cassie Dusky. Hopefully some of you know. I'm a designer and photographer. And I do some computer graphics and 3D design and electronics as a hobby. It's flickering and I apologize for that. If that causes an issue for anyone, please let me know and I'll just pause it. I do freelance design and websites and photography and stuff on the side. A lot of people have come up here today and talked about how personal art is. And one of the reasons that I wanted to share this particular piece, despite some of the technical hiccups, is it's a lot like, it's very personal for me as well. This is a series I call Vignettes, which is a very basic name, but I've been working on it for a while, since college. And the idea was originally to create a series of 3D just like scenes that you can look around. Hopefully you can see here, despite the giant loading circle, that it's like a YouTube video, but you can actually look around and you can and hopefully be kind of immersed in that way. That's a little bit different to a normal one. And it started as just kind of a cool idea, but over time, it kind of became a very it's just a project I've come back, it's a way of venting. It's a project I come back to whenever I need to be in one of these places, or when I need to put what I'm feeling into one of these places. So this is the second one. I'm going to cut over the first one. Yeah, it's looping. Where did you go? There we go. That's it. Continue. This one had some rendering issues because it was literally the first one I did. I'm gonna try and up the quality a little bit here and see if that takes. So this is my college dorm room. And you can see it's a little bit abstract. This was basically 2 a.m. horror about finals, which is something I can laugh about now that I've graduated. The walls of the room are like bowed in. And the walls are covered in, those are report cards. And the screen is flickering and it's not very visible, but you can zoom in and that's actually Microsoft Outlook. But it's just kind of, for me, it was that 4 a.m. horror that like I was just so behind on everything. And I mean, I had more points. Like this was during COVID. So like the computer was the only way I interacted with the outside world for a little bit of that. Or it was the primary way we did classes. And it was just, the world is going to crush you. That fan is going to kill you. And And then to balance that, I have the scene that I showed you at the beginning here. Which is, I called it liminal at the time, was the mood, and the idea is you're just sitting at like this bus stop in the rain. And like, it's a transition period, you're waiting for the bus, there's nothing else anyone could possibly expect of you but to sit there and enjoy it and wait for the bus. And it just was a very peaceful place for me. And then the third one, I've been really obsessed recently with the feeling of libraries that have like a third place, that it's not home and it's not work and it's not commercial. And this is okay, I can't see the checkbox there, sorry. But this is just like a reading room in a library. And it's got couches and blankets and it's something I've needed recently to retreat to, and I've been kind of obsessively building it, and I pulled a couple all-nighters this week to try and make sure it was ready, because one of the big things for me, you might be able to tell by the lighting, it's pretty heavily inspired by UFP for me here, especially our library corner in the back room there. But I wanted to kind of talk about that. For me, creativity is something that I've always felt driven to create stuff when I have something I need to express, because I've never been great at words for that. So thank you very much. And I will have these up on the monitor back there with a map that you can click through and look around on your own. Thank you very much.
Wow, so many awesome creative people that we have here, and I'm sure there's so much more that we all have that we can bring, and maybe we can do this again sometime. So thank you so much. And we're gonna go to our closing words. And this is gonna be the closing of the online services portion too. Maya Angelou said, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." I hope that today you leave here with that tingly feeling of excitement and inspiration. I hope that those creative genes begin to express themselves and you bring beauty and art into the world as you strive to find truth and meaning in your life. Thank you to everyone who is participating in today's movement and agenda, and I appreciate all of your creativity that we have in our fellowship. We're gonna do joys and concerns when we're ready to go with that. Okay. Oh. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. May we remember those who have spoken and those who may have been named, and those things that we hold silent in our heart. So we're going to extinguish our chalice. Chloe, you want to extinguish our chalice for us? We can say this all together. We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our hands until we are together again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.